Okay, now that you've imported your clips into Premiere and you have a timeline set up or a sequence set up down here, you're ready to start editing your rough cut. A rough cut is where we just take the interview and we cut out all the obvious mistakes and we cut out the questions and we put all of the person's answers into a sequence so that we can then start editing. We can move things around. We can also decide what we need to change or what B-roll we need. But first we've got to put together the rough cut. So pretty straightforward. Start with your first clip, open it up, and preview it up here in the source monitor.
Okay, so what made you get into rock school?
Well, what made me...
So right around there is where we're going to start, where he says we don't want to hear the person's question, we just want to hear his answer. So we want to just start with what made me get into rock school. So these, by the way, these little arrows will move you forward or backwards one frame at a time, so you can edit really.
Well, what made...
So right before he says well. Actually, we don't need the well. We'll go just past the well.
What made...
We set that as our endpoint. These buttons right here are endpoints, or you can also push I on your keyboard to set the endpoint. You'll see now that I've got that little orange bracket, so that's where my clip's now going to start. If I push this little go to the in button, it'll put me there and I can push play.
What made me get into rock school is,
Okay, so it
back
starts
when I
right
was
where he
in
says,
7th
what
grade,
made me get into rock
I had some
school?
friends that came to Granger, and I love music, and they were telling me about rock school, and I was like, oh, it's so cool.
By the way, the reason it's choppy is because I'm recording a video. Yours will play smoother than this.
So I decided to take the class, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay, so it's pretty cool. That's where that thought ends. So I need to back up to right about there.
What you got planned today?
And then I set my out point. Set my out point right here by pushing the mark out, or I push the O button on my keyboard. You'll now see that I've got the two orange brackets. There's my in point, there's my out point. Now I put this into my sequence. Let it go. Now I've got my, I'm going to actually undo that. Command Z is undo. Because I want to use video 1 track and audio 1 track. So I need to make sure those are selected before I throw it down there. Let it go. So there's my first clip into my interview. Okay, put my cursor at the end of it. Now I'm ready to go on to my next clip. Back up to this video. I want to start where I left off, so I push this go to the out button. Takes me to the end of that clip, and I can push play and I can listen to what happens next.
What is your daily routine? Like, what do you guys do in the class?
What do we do in the class? Well, it varies. We usually go to these practice rooms with each band, and we'll practice about what songs we have. And recently...
So I need to get the start of that question. So far, this is a really good interview in that he restates the question.
What do you guys do in the class?
What do we do?
So I'll get right to the start. We said, what do we do in the class? Set my endpoint by pushing I on the keyboard or by clicking this mark in button.
What do we do in the class?
I want to get a little bit more of that out of there, so I don't want to hear any of the interviewer. Set my endpoint again. Now I'm ready to go.
What do we do in the class? Well, it varies. We usually go to these practice rooms with each band, and we'll practice about what songs we have. And recently we've been working on recording our songs, so that's kind of a thing. And also we're recording our songs to get used to them because we're making music videos.
So I don't know why they cut that off. He was still talking, but
Music videos.
so right at the end there, music videos is going to be our output. Set my out point by pushing O on my keyboard or by pushing the mark out button right here in the source monitor. You'll see now I have a new clip selected. There's the in point, there's the out point. Now I can put it in the timeline. Now when I drag it to the program monitor to put it into the timeline, it's going to put it wherever this cursor is, wherever my playhead is. So I've got to put that right there, drag it, and let go. I've now got a clip in there. Okay. So you can follow along and start working on yours now. I'm going to go to the next clip. Get this ready.
Okay, so do you like rock school?
I love rock school.
So I want to start right where he says, I love rock school as my endpoint. Again, an endpoint tells it where to start, an outpoint tells it where to end.
School? Like rock school?
So you can see right before he opens his mouth, that's where I'm going to start. Endpoint, I for in, or I click the mark in button.
I love rock school. Rock school is probably what makes me like most happy when I wake up in the mornings on a B day, and I'm like, it's time for rock school. That's really cool, and it's one of my favorite
Hold
classes.
up there.
And it's one of my favorite
Hold
classes.
up there.
Okay, they kind of got interrupted, so I need to see how I can edit this.
Really cool.
Probably gonna have to end right there with it's really cool because his next thought gets interrupted. So right after it's really cool, I'm gonna mark out, O for out on the keyboard, or I can push the mark out button here. Now I've got my clip in, out, drag it into my timeline, let it go. Okay, now I go to my next video, double click it, open it up, and let's start watching it from the start.
Do you like rock school?
I love
So this is a redo of the same question. I'll put both down there and we can decide which one's better. Set my endpoint, I for O, or mark in.
I love rock school. Rock school is one of my favorite classes, if not my favorite class. And every morning when I wake up, it's like, today's a B day. It's gonna be rock school. It's really cool, fun class.
Okay, that's the end of his thought. Mark my out point. Now I've got my end to out right here. You can see how long it is. It's almost 15 seconds long right here. Alright, click and drag it into my program. Now it's there. Now what I want to do is I want to watch these two side by side and decide which one I like better.
Because we're making music videos. I love rock school. Rock school is probably what makes me like most happy when I wake up in the mornings on a B day.
Someone
I'm like,
knocked on the door. So
it's time
I
for
want
rock
to use the
school.
next
It's
one.
really cool. I love rock school. Rock school is one of my favorite classes, if not my favorite class. And every morning when I wake up, it's like, today's a B day. It's gonna be rock school. It's really cool, fun class.
Okay, so this next one I'm going to delete it. Now I got this gap here, so to delete the gap I select the gap and I push delete. Now it's gone. Alright, got two more clips to go through, see what we got. Open up this one, let's play it from the start.
So, who's in your band?
Who's in my
So who's in my band? That's where we start. Tell by his lips he's about ready to talk, so I set my endpoint, I on the keyboard, or the mark in button, I push play.
Who's in my band? Well, that's a good question. Gotta think. I've got Demi is in my band. Who else is in my band? Luis is in my band. Melina is in my band. We have a lot of singers. Who else is in my band? Teresa's in my band. And I'm forgetting someone. Oh, I can't remember the name. Okay, I've got a lot of people in my band, but that's a rundown of most of the people. We've got probably 5 singers and a drummer, a guitarist, and that's about it.
Okay, Okay, the bell rang right at the end of that, so hopefully they re-ask this question, but in case they don't, we need to edit it to before the bell starts to ring. But you typically, if something like that happens, you wait for the bell to stop and then you re-record the question.
Rundown of most of the people. We've got
So we want to end right there. We run down to most people.
but that's a rundown of most of the people.
Most of the people, that's where we're going to put our mark out, because right after that the bell starts to ring. So there we go. We've got our in point, our out point. It's about almost 30 seconds long. We're now ready to drag it into the program to put it into the sequence. But you'll notice my playhead is right here in the middle of this clip. If I drag this over here now, if I let go, it's going to erase that because it was in the wrong place. So Command Z will undo that. Make sure this is at the end of the clip. By the way, you can move from clip to clip by using your up arrow on your keyboard or your down arrow. Okay, we want to be right at the end of the last clip. We're now ready to drag this new clip in, let go. Now it's in there. Speaking of bells, there's a bell right there recording over my video. But I'm not going to stop. Okay, now we're down to the last clip of our rough cut. Let's open it up, listen to it from the start.
So I know you're in a band. What is it like to be in a real band?
So what is it like to be in a real band? Let's get to the start of his thought. Set our in point.
What's it like to be in a real band? Well, it's a lot of fun. To be in a real
So that's where we want to start. What is it like to be in a real band? By the way, this group did a really good job of having the person being interviewed restate the question. Make sure you're doing that.
band, it takes a lot
That way the questions will make sense by themselves.
of dedication, of course, and you feel really cool. I can say that. It's really stressful as well because like you have to be able to show up to practice on time and know your stuff, have the songs, and then worry about like your next show and all the dedication to practice and get ready for that show. But overall, it's really fun to be in a band. It's fun stuff, and it's my life. That's for sure.
It's my life, that's for sure. That's the end of his thought. So we set our in point, our out point, mark out. You can see now we've got an in point up here and an out point right here. It's almost 30 and a half seconds. We're ready to put it in. So my timeline, my playhead's in the right place. My timeline, I can click this and drag it into my program monitor, and I let go. And now it's done. You'll see that my rough cut is now 1:48. I will include with this video a copy of this rough cut so you can see what it looks like. So that's all you're doing in the rough cut. Yeah, you might go back in and edit things like where he stumbles around. We might edit some of that out. But this is our rough cut. That's all you need to do for this portion of the assignment.